Well, hello, everybody, and hello, Chad. How was your week this week, Chad?
I don't even know how to put it. I mean, seriously, we have so much to talk about because it's just like, I don't know, man. I haven't seen something like this in a while.
Yeah. We have so many good things going. I mean, I was going to say when we were talking about what are we going to cover on the show, and it was like you had a bunch of stuff, I had a bunch of stuff, and then it was just pretty much we're just going to have to boom through this because there's a lot. Nuts. There's a lot going on, and it's mostly all positive, really.
Well, yeah, and I mean, it's all a lot. I hate to say it's little things.
Yeah.
But dude, when you add it all up, this has been. This is a great time.
Yeah, yeah. Well, you always hear the saying "death by 1,000 cuts," and the truth of the matter is we're actually. I don't know if there's one to go the other way.
Right.
You know, that it really because there's so much that we're having going in our momentum, and it takes it back to the last time last week when you had the conversation with Rod Cry. Is once you get that momentum going, it's really hard to stop. And I think about a train, and I don't know why. Maybe it's just us being railers and all that stuff, and the train and seeing a lot of train. But once you get a train moving, they don't stop very quickly. It takes a while to get them going,
yes,
but once you get them going, I mean, it's all there. It's all there. So you bring up something first. I want to know what you got first off.
What? I don't know where to start. Okay. I mean, that's the thing. I mean, we can start with. Hey, let's start with Chad Newlick.
Okay. Yes, I saw that.
One of my favorite people, right?
I saw that.
So he just got named as the next principal out at Newton High School, and. He's very, very excited, and there's a lot of people who are very, very excited for him. And when you're talking about a principal, okay? So let's be honest, when you're talking about a principal, and especially an established principal, there are people that are not going to like you.
Yeah.
All right? And there's reasons that they don't.
Yeah.
And there are people that are going to love you, and there's reasons that they're going to love you. And my own family that's playing out, right? So Mr. Newlick is currently the assistant principal over at Chisholm Middle School. Coincidentally, it was in October, I believe, maybe, yeah. He was named the assistant principal of the year for the state of Kansas.
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
So there you have it.
That's why that name sounds so
That's
familiar.
why the name sounds familiar.
Good.
Okay, so Newton didn't have to go very far looking for their next principal. Yeah. They just kind of looked across town. I have two kids that are at Chisholm right now. One of them is super excited that Newlick is going to follow him into the high school.
Yeah.
The other, not so much. In her words, he eats phones. She doesn't even have a phone.
But if you're caught with it, he'll eat that bad boy.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah. And she thinks he's kind of scary.
Yeah.
Right? He's following his daughter. He's got a daughter in the 8th grade that's going to be going to the high school, and he's going with her. And I am beyond tickled pink.
Yeah.
All right? And one of the reasons that I'm tickled pink is going to be so much different than anybody else.
Yeah.
Here it is. We went through a time period over at Chisholm Middle School that was very hard. It was rough over there.
Yeah. My son was there during that time.
Mm-hmm. And as an intake worker, it felt like I was going down to the courthouse almost every other day, and it was for kids coming out of Chisholm.
It's a tough age too, Chad.
Yes. And one can say that it's the group of kids. It's the group of kids. But quite honestly, for me, it was not the group of kids. I was going down to that intake room a lot for probably about 3 years. Okay? So the kids are over there for 2 years.
Yeah.
I'm going in for 3 years. And so it's not necessarily the kids. And then we got some changes over at Chisholm Middle School, okay? And over the course of about a year and a half, 2 years, we ended up with new school resource officers. And I'm not throwing anybody under the bus here. This is just what happened. And also they changed how much time those officers were spending in individual buildings. So there was a whole bunch of changes going on at once. Okay. We also ended up with the new principal and new assistant principals. And this is over the course of about 18 months. And one would think if it was rough kids, all of that stuff would have followed through, and you know, I'd still be going in there every other day for kids coming out of Newton High School. But that was not the case. Okay. Things settled down at Chisholm.
With different leadership.
We had different leadership.
Yeah. And see, I would say this.
It's very, I want to be really clear. I'm not trying to throw anybody under any buses here. We had different leadership.
Yeah.
Which also means a different leadership style.
Yes. Different priorities.
And a different way to handling things.
Yes.
Right?
Agreed.
And that is everything.
Yes.
Not just the problem that popped up today that means that we have to send a kid to the intake room. It's everything.
Well, and
New Lick was a part of all of those changes.
Yeah.
It was not unnoticed.
Well, and I want to say this, and this goes to, I was going to cover something about an individual that was running for commission, and they wanted to bash the school, and then they acted like that's not what they're going to do, and I don't know if they just don't know what position they're running for, or what. I'm really just kind of not understanding why, and I came out, I try not to a lot on social media and be very critical of their position, okay? And I'm not going to go into a bunch of detail there, but it was like this person is referencing last year's stuff, okay, and there's been so much that's changed since then.
Correct.
And when you talk about what we're doing here in Newton and Harvey County, there's a lot of change that's happening, and there was growing pains through that, but there's also a lot of leadership change. So for those of you that think that it's really your job to get out there on social media, it seems like this is the battleground of the 21st century here, 2024. You know, social media is paramount in everyone's lives, and people can type up something real quick and put it out without thinking about it. You know, quit going back to the dirty water and drinking dirty water. It's almost like there's a toilet and
Yes.
it's getting flushed, and instead of going upstream to drink the water, you want to go behind the toilet and drink the dirty water that's coming out of the toilet, and it's not even the water that's coming in anymore, right? We have an entire culture change, including like you're talking about principals and stuff, and this I mean, even then at the school board level, we have different leadership now.
Yes, we do.
have, you know, don't quit digging up old bones. All right. It seems to me that there's people that are digging up old bones and pointing fingers, but they're the ones that were at the helm at the time. And it's just creating a culture of toxicity in our community. And because our momentum is going so well, and we are moving down the line, and we're really seeing some amazing things happen, you know, even at the city, with them needing to secure more land to be able to make sure that we can continue to grow, because people are looking at us and we're getting ready to run out of spaces for them to go.
Correct.
And it's like, well, let's talk about how well this is going to work out and this is going to work out. And and then I find myself having to explain to people that don't understand how tax abatements work. You know, like, you know, watch the program between Chad and Rod. It really does highlight how this stuff works. Take the time. And I know in April, we've already got plans that Rod's going to come on, and he's going to do a PowerPoint presentation and give an update about where we're at. And I think we're going to see a lot better of a situation today than we ever saw years ago when he did the PowerPoint presentation before. Agreed or not agreed, Chad?
Agreed. And you know what? There's a ton to unpack in what you just said.
Yeah.
There's a ton. Right?
Sorry,
it's okay. It's okay. The first thing I want to go to, because you referenced that situation with a candidate.
Yes.
Okay. And we are going into an election season, and I want to speak to voters, and voters have a responsibility here. I've recognized a pattern. Okay. And I would like voters to break that pattern.
Yeah.
I would like voters to start looking at candidates and saying, stay in your lane.
Yes.
For example, you're running for the state legislature. There's not a darn thing you can do about my water rates.
That's just one of many.
Exactly.
One
Okay?
of many.
There's not a darn thing you can do about that. So don't even talk about it with me.
Well, but people will vote for me if I start antagonizing an issue that they feel needs to be addressed.
You're running for county commission. Not a darn thing you can do about what's going on in education. Stay in your lane. Don't even talk to me about it. I don't care. Honestly, I do not care what you think when it comes to education if you are running for county commission.
Well, don't you have enough on your plate already?
In county commission, you have no say. Period.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
You have none.
That's
Zip.
truth. That's the truth.
Okay? So talk to me about what you want to do as a county commissioner.
Absolutely.
And what you can actually affect change on.
Yep. And I'm sitting here looking at this and I'm asking the question, and this is one thing that I came out and said is, tell me what you're going to do as a Harvey County Commissioner. The jail needs to be upgraded. That's going to cost money. We're still going through this transition of being able to get moved over to Pine Street and what we're going to do about remodeling. We're looking at a lot of financial things that need to be addressed at a county level. Stop picking low-hanging fruit issues that have nothing to do with what's going on in this community.
Correct.
And making it something to be some platform to run on. And I will say this. You said you want the voters, that they need to take responsibility. And I will say this, okay? If you are somebody that votes in a general election, and let's just get this out here now, if you think the only thing that matters is going and voting when a president is running, or you don't even think you really have a necessity it's not necessary for you to go and vote in a primary, this is how we get toxic people. Okay, we get toxic people who should not be in that role because a very small fraction of people take the time to go out and vote in a primary. If we were just to have, instead of 30% or 20% of people that are eligible registered voters that go and vote in a general election, to go and vote in a primary, to choose to be informed during a primary, we would see an entirely different landscape. An entirely different landscape, Chad. And I'm starting to be concerned because, well, there's only one person that's filed so far out of anybody that I can say confidently, and they will come out here on the program because I've invited them, that they have the education, the experience, and the tools necessary to treat the job the way the job's supposed to be treated and do what they need to do. And just recently, they had a huge win. They were planting a tree that the shade they might not set in. They're actually fortunate enough that they can go pick some fruit off the tree.
Yeah. Well, and I've had that exact conversation. Okay. I'm not blowing smoke here. I've had that exact conversation that I just outlined on my front porch with a candidate. I've looked right at him and I've said, I don't care about that. You can't affect any change there. You have nothing to do with that. You tell me what you're going to do at your level. The response I got was, when you opened the door, I knew you were more educated than the average bear.
Wow.
Because they knew who I was.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay? And they knew what circles I swim in.
But who goes and deliberately dupes people to get elected? That's my question.
Well,
why? And then who are the people that are allowing themselves to be duped because they're not actually educated for it?
The pattern is you get your political talking point and you stick with it and you try and run that right through to being elected. And let me be very clear. I have outlined situations right here within the last 3 minutes from both of our major political parties.
Yeah. Yeah.
There ain't nobody with their hands
That's
clean.
right. That's why I say primaries.
Right?
You get this, you get the minority on one side of the aisle and the minority on the other.
To your point on the primary, traditional Reagan Republicans lost their party in the primaries. Okay?
Agreed.
Period. That's where they lost it. They lost it in the primaries. If they want it back, they have to go through the primaries.
Yeah.
And if they want it back, they have to go all the way down to the precincts.
Agreed.
All right. We've gone a long way from talking about Chad Newlick, but that is really the deal, and that's the situation we're in. If you are unhappy, traditional Reagan Republicans are now being called rhinos.
Yeah.
Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah.
If that's you and you're unhappy, you have to take the party back.
Well, I have to say it again. If you are, this is the nature of politics right now, and it's very, very scary. You have this very, very extreme right-wing group that believes that they should elect people to dictate to everyone else what they believe is a very specific thing. And then you have on the left side, it's the same thing. And these are determined in a primary. And so you have somebody that's beholden to the very, very, very extreme right, or somebody that's beholden to the very, very, very extreme left. And then these are the people that we get to pick from. And it's no wonder that we're in a situation where there's no moderation at all. And it all stems back to this. And I'll say it again. People elect people that they believe will go inflict their political will on everybody else, everything be damned. And it even gets worse, okay? Because we've been talking about this Harvey County presidential preference primary, and the total numbers are in, and it's no better than what we talked about before.
No,
the 2,053 ballots counted. Come on, 9% of people turn out. Now, we can all find a reason why we shouldn't go vote. Okay?
Correct.
But, and yeah, granted, a presidential preferential primary in Harvey County is not necessarily one that's really high on the list because, well, there's nobody really to vote for. But how many times do people say, well, I'm not going to get out and vote because there's really nobody to vote for?
And you will probably never hear me, I can't say that. You will very rarely ever hear me say that there was a worthless election, but that was one. That was worthless.
Oh, well, it makes me wonder what exactly they're doing up in Topeka.
Okay? That was worthless. It occurred after Super Tuesday. It occurred after both party nominations had already wrapped up. It's worthless.
Yeah. Yeah. But couldn't a person say it's worthless if...
Did I go vote? You better believe I did.
Yeah.
Because I vote.
Yeah.
Every time. But... As a I just want to make that point that when we're looking at that one, it's worthless. And Rick, down at our county clerk and our county election officers, has been saying repeatedly, and I've quoted him over and over again, that election turnout is driven by what's on the ballot.
Yes. Yeah, I saw that article in the paper.
Right?
Yes.
So if you go back to the primary of 2022, it was huge.
That's because of what was on the ballot, Chad.
And Rick absolutely refuses to compare the 2024 with the 2022 because what's on the ballot? Here we've got a presidential preference primary, and what's on the ballot are decided races. 2022, we had a constitutional amendment. You just can't compare the two elections.
No, you can't. You really can't. No, you really
just can't.
But it shows that when people are interested, they're going to go vote.
And then if you go back to, let's go back to 2016, there was not a presidential preference primary. It was caucuses.
Yeah.
And I was at the Republican caucus for that. Turnout was crap. All right? There wasn't anybody there. I think I know why. That one, it was you show up, you got to be at Lindley Hall, and you got to be there at this time and on this day, and there is no other opportunity for you. Well, life's going to get in the way.
Yep. Yeah.
Okay? So you're not going to get turnout.
Yeah. But then that goes back to the people that want to sit there and say, we shouldn't have mail-in ballots. We shouldn't have more than one day. If you don't go show up on election day to vote, then you shouldn't have the opportunity to vote. There are people that actually try to say this stuff.
And I have something to say to all of those people along those lines. You can pick your statement. You can pick your argument. Okay? And I know what your motivation truly is.
It's to disenfranchise voters.
Nah, it's fear. They're scared.
Well, because then they'll get somebody else to dictate to you what they think that they need to do, because that's the nature of things.
And, you know, I don't want to pick on my own political party too much, but I'm going to make a statement. The reason that they're scared is how often they lose on mail ballot. Okay?
Yep.
And the Republican Party ground game for mail ballots and advance ballots is pathetic.
Well, what? To make legislation to stop people from being able to do it?
They're spending their time trying to stop people to do it. They're not spending their time going and talking to Republicans and telling them to vote.
Well, that also goes back to the nature, and I'm not talking trash on my own party as well, okay? But that goes back to the whole situation that we just saw crop up, right?
Where and I think, you know, and I don't want to go much
can't go down
much
the road
further on this.
Yes.
But I'm gonna back up what I just said, that the ground game sucks. Yeah. Mark Rhodes lost primarily because he couldn't carry the mail ballot. You know who his opponent was?
Tim Hodge.
Tim Hodge did his speech on my front porch. And when he ran for office the first time, it was, "Hi, I'm Tim Hodge. I'm running for state legislature. But I'm not going to talk to you about any of that. Have you signed up for a mail ballot? Have you signed up for advanced voting? Do you think that would be handy for you?
Yeah.
You know, the process is really easy. All you really have to do is fill out this form."
Yep. I'm going to tell you, I've done it myself.
That is what his ground game was.
You know what I did? Yeah.
And during that entire time, the ground game of the other party was trying to prevent mail ballots from happening.
Yep.
Let me tell you something, okay? At that time, my grandmother would have been 93. And so when he went and talked to my grandmother about mail ballot, she was like, "Sign me up."
Yeah.
You mean I don't have to figure out how to get down to the courthouse?
Yep.
I don't have to figure out how to get to the polls on election day? Yeah. Sign me up.
And all you got to do is ask.
And who had the name recognition for that?
Tim Hodge.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. And he'll tell you.
Yes.
I'll tell you.
So you've got this sweet little old grandma who's sitting there going, "This guy helped me figure out how to vote." Boom.
Yes. And I'll even go this.
Election over.
Okay. And I'll even say this. I did the same thing. I went out and what I call blanket canvassed. I went door to door. I had a stack of registration forms that was this thick. I had this many. I asked Rick for this many registration forms. He'll remember it like it was yesterday, because there was a petition also that I was getting signed at the same time. So when I walked to your door, if you were not a registered voter, I said, "Here, while I'm talking to you, I'll just fill this out, but you got to sign it." And so they were fine with it. "Hey, yeah, you're helping me get registered to vote. Oh, and by the way, would you like a mail-in ballot? Here, we can fill this one out for you too. We need to fill this out. Oh, and then you can sign this petition to be participatory in something that you have a say in and don't have a say."
Correct.
And you know, it was amazing how many people were just sitting there awestruck because nobody came to their door ever and tried to get them to register to vote. And so one of the things that I have always felt was a good thing for our community is for people to have a voice through their vote. And so I made sure that I did my own walking door to door and talking to people about the importance of voting and making sure that if they needed to get registered, that we got them registered. I probably registered hundreds of people. It's like, no, you don't have to go get this little list and block out everybody that didn't vote in the primary the last time and only go to people that voted in the general. And this is the kind of thing that they do. People literally go out. You can get an Excel spreadsheet. You can take out anybody that's basically, I just want everybody that voted in the last primary. And those are the doors I'm going to go knock on. And that's all they do. They go knock on those doors and convince those people who are the most likely to vote in that election to go and vote for them. Instead, where are the people that just want to, I'm saying like me, that just want people to be participatory in the process, Chet?
They're sitting on the sidelines and they're pointing fingers. And when I say that, I have one more message that I want to deliver to those folks who are like, we only vote on Tuesday, no early voting, let's get rid of mail ballots. Okay, all of this is rooted in fear. And all you got to do to satisfy your fear, march your butt down to the courthouse on election day and watch the process.
Yep.
It's all done in open.
Oh, no, you mean there's no election fraud that happens?
Okay, I'm not
No
going
election fraud.
I'm not going. I'm not.
I'm gonna make Chad
I'm not
mad
going
today.
there. No,
Because we've already proven
you'll
the
get
pudding,
it.
man. I mean,
You'll
come on.
get it.
Yes.
But you can watch it all, and you can even watch the certification of the vote
Absolutely.
by our county commission. You can watch it all. If you want to, you can stand outside a poll site and watch who walks in, who walks out, and the process that they go through to vote.
Yep.
You can watch and observe every single piece of this.
Can't be any more transparent.
Okay? You really, truly can. And if you want to know how they certify that that mail ballot came from my house, they will readily tell you. Okay?
Yeah, I've been there.
And one of the keys to that, I mean, I just don't get it. I don't get where some of these fears come from. With a mail ballot, you got to sign up in advance to get it.
Yep. So they check you then.
Okay? And then the clerk will mail it to you. It comes to your post office. It comes to your post box. Okay? You don't go down to the courthouse and pick it up. It is mailed to you. And it is your responsibility at that point to fill it out and mail it back.
Which goes back through the postal system. Oh, but you know, there's postal people that they're just throwing them all in the trash because they know that they're just votes for Republicans or Democrats. I mean, it's a joke. It's a joke. You say fear, but I maybe underestimate the
Lance,
fear.
we do know that during an election cycle that there were some ballots that were not returned. Okay? That's been documented. It's out there, and that is a fact. Okay? Here's the deal, though. Number one, the numbers that we're talking about would not have affected any election. Number two, most of the time, unless you're in a pocket or in an area where one party's ground game on this is absolutely sucked, those things that they found in the river, if they were to pull them out and count them, probably would pretty much mirror what the overall result of that election was. And all the votes that come in as provisionals and then have to be counted later. I mean, I've been doing this for 20 something years. Do you know how many times an election has changed at the local level? Once. And it was like a township race. There were only 10 votes in the thing in the first place. So yeah, one vote's going to matter, and two votes is going to matter, and it might change it.
Yeah.
Okay? But those things do not change elections. And those ballots that were found in the river did not, there wasn't enough of them, change that election. And we've got the one documented incident.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay?
Yep. Don't disagree with you at all.
We are operating our elections at a high level.
Yeah, we are. Especially in Harvey County.
Well,
I'm telling you, especially in Harvey County. And I have to say this, not to interrupt you, but I got to say this. I always check the Harvey County, Kansas elections page, and I saw that Rick Pifo filed again. And I got to tell you, Rick, since the time that I started running 6 years ago and was completely virgin to the process, and I mean virgin to the process, that you helped me. And you didn't help me win. You didn't help me lose. You just gave me the opportunity of your time and allowed me to learn through the process. And I can't say it enough. Rick, you've been an awesome Harvey County elections clerk and official. I went in there and I interned with him. I learned so much about the process and everything. I mean, the guy has an open door policy to anybody that goes in there and has any questions. Anytime I've ever asked for an open Kansas Open Records Act, I've been able to get that. I think I maybe paid like for some paper here or there, but every time he's ever done it, even though I've asked for some whoppers, it seems like he finds a way to get it accomplished in his office and doesn't charge me for it. And I highly doubt he would anybody else. And I just want to say this, Rick, you rock. I appreciate you. I appreciate the integrity that you do your job with. I think we just hit it out of the park when you became our elections clerk and official in Harvey County. And I just got to say, you got my vote. You got my vote. If you need anything or any help, you got my vote.
And he took over for a pretty excellent clerk too.
I mean, we're lucky. See, that's the thing. We have so many awesome things going on in our community. And speaking of this,
you know where else we're lucky? We're real lucky over in our city hall.
Yes. Speaking of clerks. Yes. Hey, and I actually talked to her on the phone personally and said, you know, it was for something else. And I said, well, I heard you got an award of some kind. And she's like, yeah, I did. Humility, total humility. And I'll just say this, even though I know I've rubbed some people in the city the wrong way in my life because I've learned through it. I even took the time to tell her, you know, I appreciate you because you've always treated me cordially and with respect and dignity. And there were times where I was just novice and didn't understand and sometimes was running through the dark on this. And every once in a while I'd bump into somebody and they weren't real happy about it. But but truth be told, she's a rock star too.
Yep. And when they gave Denise Dirksen a standing ovation on Tuesday, it was really obvious how embarrassed she was during the meeting. You know, I don't know, because I don't watch it via Facebook, so I don't know if the camera was on her for that or not. But it was very obvious she was embarrassed. And she is a rock star. I'm going to give you an example of her being a complete and total rock star, okay?
Hey, lay it on me.
So I can't tell you the exact year. I can just tell you that we actually had a staff at the time, and it was probably 10 years ago, that I cooked up this idea because it felt like every time we turned around, somebody was complaining about debt, right? County, city, school. Everybody was complaining about the debt load that each one of these entities was carrying. I want to say it was somewhere around 2017 because I think what brought it into real head was that the Board of Education was trying to get a bond done, and people were coming unglued because they didn't feel like they had paid off enough of the previous bond, and there was just a lot of debt.
I'm pretty sure I'm the one that did that, Chad.
So when we,
if you're not pointing fingers,
when I sat with my newsroom, right, and I sat with my newsroom, I said, here's an idea for a series. I'll just call it What We Owe.
Yeah.
And I think that we each need to go to, at the time, our beats, okay, and we need to ask for the list of our debts. And then we need to take a look at that list, and we need to drill in and start figuring out who to talk to explain why we owe this money. What was this money borrowed for? Okay?
Yeah.
And we ended up with a three-part series. We talked to the county, we talked to the city, and we talked to the Board of Education. And at the time, the county didn't have a, quote, PIO, so it had to go through the administrator's office. They were easy. The Board of Education, I don't remember if they had a PIO at that time. There was a time period there where they had eliminated that position. Yeah. So, and I've known every one of them for the last 20-something years. Carly's a rock star, by the way. And then we went to the city, and we had a fairly new journalist, if I'm remembering everybody correctly, that was working our cities at the time, and they were a little nervous about that. So I said, you know what? I'm gonna pick up the phone and call, and I'll chat with Denise. And that's exactly what happened. And I told Denise, I said, I think they're going to file an open records request, but this is what they're going to be looking for. I just want you guys to be prepared. 10 minutes later, I had it all in an email. Okay?
Love it.
We didn't have to file the open records request.
Yes.
We just had to tell her, hey, we're thinking about doing this.
We're here to serve.
And what I thought was really, truly amazing, too, is we had all of those things listed out in the email, all of the amounts, when it was taken out, when it would be retired, and what the annual payments were, and in some cases monthly. All of that was laid out there. And she also listed out exactly who in City Hall would be the best person to talk to for each one of those things. In some cases it's going to be Suzanne Loomis, and in other cases it's going to be
to get into the weeds, right?
Lunda Osmani was the finance guy at the time. In a couple other cases, it's like you probably actually want to talk to the manager out at the airport.
Yes,
I mean all of that was laid out.
Or the sewer treatment facility. Even.
5 minutes after we just said, "Hey, we're thinking about this." That's what we got from her. The woman is an absolute rock star.
On point, on her game, knows what she's doing. It's incredible. It goes back to the fact that people that are not involved in this, that want to throw rocks from a long distance away without being properly informed, are probably doing more harm than good. And I don't understand the not asking questions. It's like, we said this before.
And I'm not going to sit here and say that there aren't times that rocks need to be thrown.
Agreed.
Right?
Agreed.
And I'm not going to make a blanket statement and say that everybody working at the county courthouse, the city hall, and the school district, not every single one of those people are absolute studs and rock stars. It doesn't work that way.
Yeah.
But we do have some.
Yeah. Well, and then we get to choose who we celebrate. For instance, I want to celebrate somebody else. I want to celebrate Sheriff Chad Gay. Okay, there was some stuff that we had talked about that were some decisions that were made in a moment when there wasn't really a whole lot of information to go on, and the time was different, and what the federal government was doing different, and anyway, there was something that came up that said that Harvey County was a sanctuary community. Well, it actually said it was a sanctuary city. So I don't know where this national news organization got their
sanctuary county.
Yeah, their deal. But it goes back to the importance of having credible journalism and people being able to check their facts before they go out and they publish something, which in a lot of cases here locally that might happen, and then even on a national level, correct? And a phone call that asks a question goes a long way. And it said in the Newton Kansan, well, of course you know that, right? That the sheriff cleans up sanctuary designation. So when this happened, okay, because nobody called him and asked about it, right? They just said it. Then he took the steps necessary to be able to say, whoa, let's put the brakes on this here, because if there is something that happened and there's a way to right the wrong or right it, and I wouldn't even call it a wrong. I wouldn't even call it a wrong. I would just say a way to appropriately project the knowledge and the information that this is where we stand in Harvey County. And as long as I'm the elected official in Harvey County, this is how we're going to do it. And this is how it's going to be. And there's no rocks to be thrown to the past. You know, we're moving down the road at 60 miles an hour. Why are you going to throw a rock out the front? What do you think is going to happen to that rock? It's going to come right back and smack us in the face. So that's what this, bringing up, oh, well, we'll see what happens out here with this stuff in 10 years. Like, they're breaking ground, people. They're breaking ground. Right. We're not having this happen.
What Chad did is he got on the horn to the organization that maintains that map and listing, and questioned and asked, how in the world do we get off of this list? And it took them some time. 3 weeks. It took 3 weeks. Okay? And they came back with, well, they had like 3 or 4 questions that they wanted answered, and he answered them truthfully and honestly. And at the end of the day, we never should have been on that list.
Yeah.
Ever. There's some of us who know what happened to get there. Okay? And it's unconscionable. It's ridiculous. But
that would be the litmus test or what the person did. The litmus test.
So this is what this happened. It occurred in 2014 under Sheriff T. Walton, who was equally PO'd about this. Okay? He couldn't get the people to talk to him. Who knows why? Okay?
Yeah.
I mean, I can sit here and theorize, but who knows why?
Because many times the federal government allows for things to trickle down, and then we have to deal with that at a local level.
But so what really truly happened here is there were a couple of situations that arose where deputies pulled over vehicles on the interstate, and they found illegal immigrants. Okay? And that's a term that I really struggle with.
Yeah.
Okay?
But that's the PC correct term, I suppose. What do you call somebody who's here from another country that's not supposed to be here?
As a human, you are not illegal as a human being.
Yeah. Your status.
Okay? So anyway, found some people with some we'll call it questionable immigration status.
Didn't have citizenship.
Does not have, yes.
There we go. That's what
don't have the proper
paperwork.
paperwork.
Don't have U.S. citizenship paperwork.
So they found it was a fairly sizable crew. Okay? They did exactly what they were supposed to do. They brought him back to the jail. Okay? Put him in an detainment cell, and they called immigration. And immigration is supposed to determine whether or not what's going to happen next, right? And immigration says, well, we're not going to come get them. Who knows why? I mean, nobody really knows.
Because that's what was going on at the time.
They're just not going to come get them.
That's right. They'd been directed by the federal, the executive branch to, let's not get into those weeds. It's like
I don't care. I don't care who the president is. I mean, seriously.
Executive
on this
order.
issue, I really don't. They've all been a bunch of idiots. Okay?
Right.
So they said they weren't going to come get him. And so now we got T. Walton sitting there going, well, what am I supposed to do with these guys?
What can I do with them?
Well, there's nothing you can do. So here's your choice. You can book them into the jail, okay, and you can detain them. All right. You do not have a detainer from ICE to do so, but you can. At the end of the day, who's going to have to take care of them after they're booked? Well, until ICE comes to get them, which they've said they're not going to do, you and I are paying for that.
Yeah. And then what are you charging them for, and what are you prosecuting them for? I mean, we're in a confusing situation.
Exactly. So T said, here's what we're going to do. We're going to load them right back up into these vans. We're going to drive them to the county line. We're going to hand them the keys, and we're going to say, do not come back.
What else he's supposed
Somebody
to
else's
do,
problem.
Chad?
Guess who else has been doing this?
Everybody?
Chad Gay.
Yeah.
He's been doing this a lot.
Well, what do you do?
Because if they're not going to come get them and there's no detainer, what are you going to do?
You have no legal authority, really.
But that situation somehow, it was a couple months after one of the big ones, we ended up on the list of sanctuary counties because we won't detain. And then the listing as it stood prior to it being removed was that it says it won't cooperate with ICE.
But that's not the truth.
And none of that is true.
ICE won't cooperate with us.
If they'll issue a detainer, we'll detain them.
Yeah.
Contingent on them coming to get them.
Oh, we're opening up a wound here, Chad, because we are not going to cover national issues, but I just got this to say. Federal government, there is so much going on right now that is inhumane at the southern border, and people cannot be treated the way they're treated. We cannot have a situation in which we have states and the federal government going at bat with one another. Somebody's going to get hurt. So there is going to be a shot heard around the world, and it's going to be on our own soil between our federal government and our states. And that is not a place that any of us want to be. And I'm here to say it, if my word means anything. We have got to do something about this because people are getting caught in the mix, and there are horrible atrocities taking place at the southern border. It is absolutely, our border policy has allowed for us to have just unconscionable things taking place to people, children, okay? This has got to stop. This has got to stop. And our hands are tied. All of our hands are tied. The state of Kansas's hands are tied. Newton, Kansas's hands are tied. Chad and Lance's hands are tied. Everybody's hands are tied, and we're waiting on our government to do what they're supposed to do. But you know what? I guess we'll be waiting forever, because it's getting to the point in time where it seems like everybody's here saying, look, this is the right, humane thing to do. Fill in that blank. And the only thing that can happen is we get in arguments about what the right, humane thing to do is, but we're put in this situation where we wouldn't have this situation if it wasn't for the actions of our federal government. I'm going to say federal government as a whole, usually the executive branch, and their edicts that they put out for political prowess and the ability to use it as goes back to our local situation when people get elected from a primary because they're starting to wade into water they shouldn't. And I'm not going to monologue anymore, but people, something has to be done. Something has to be done. I'm sitting here in Newton, Kansas, America, watching trains pass by. And while I'm sitting there watching trains pass by, I'm reading stuff about all of the atrocities that are happening to these children and these people. And it's grieving me. And there's not a damn thing I can do about it. And it just makes me sick. It makes me sick to my stomach. So since we're not going to go down that road, Chad, and I did my monologue, okay? I don't know why. That just came from the spirit, my friend. I would just like to say I think something really cool is taking place in Newton, Kansas, America. And
there's
it has
lots of
to
cool
do
stuff.
with clean energy. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Clean energy. You know, with that ban and all that stuff that we did. Okay.
Well, that was county.
Yeah, whatever.
Right. So that doesn't extend inside the cities.
Well, okay. Speaking of this, my eyes have been on the New Hope Shelter. They have a grand opening that's coming up, I think in about a week.
Yep.
Anybody can go there. Anybody can view it. It's an amazing thing. We already discussed it on the program before. This was total private funding. There was absolutely no city funding that went into this. There was no county funding that went into this. And somewhere in the weeds, there might be some county funding that goes towards the care of people that are homeless, but it's not to build this building. And one thing that they chose to do was to utilize technology to be more self-sufficient and to be independent. And I'll tell you what, there's not too many places in this community that if the electricity went down, that you'd still have electricity. But New Hope Shelter is one of them. So if you have a chance to get out there and go there to see their ground opening, they're opening their doors. I'm going to have Brian Bisbee, who's the director, out here on the program here soon, just to talk about the journey from where they were to where they are now. And I'm telling you what, when I drive by that place, the only thing that it makes me think is that God is still working in people's lives, and there still is a remnant of people, maybe a large portion, a large population of people that want to service the needs of those who are just hurting and need help. A roof over their head, a roof over their heads, and sometimes families. And these people help them by getting them the resources that they need. And then eventually, I like to call it transitional housing, because you don't stay there forever. You go there because you are at the bottom, and they have a process and things that you do to where you are eventually, and it's not very long, but in a place where you can go get your own place. And then there's people to help you in that situation. And sometimes it's mental health services, and sometimes it's addiction services. But you know what? If you go to that door and you knock on that door and you say, please help me, you're going to get help. And they have solar panels.
Yes.
Same as First Methodist Church.
First Mennonite Church.
Oh, I'm sorry. Oh gosh, it's an FMC. Dang it.
Yeah, well,
I should have read the fine print.
First Mennonite Church over on East First Street. They're installing panels right now. They're putting they're putting 100 solar panels on their roof.
Awesome.
And this is an old church. This is a historic building. They're choosing to use one of the roofs that was on their education wing that was built in '64. Okay. Is where those are going. They think they're going to replace somewhere around 75 to 85% of their electrical needs. Yeah. With those solar panels.
Wow. Yeah. Oh, but we've got a problem with solar panels, don't we? Somebody's going to have to throw a rock somewhere.
Hey, all I'm going to say, Lance, is that the county rules are for the county.
Yeah.
And the city rules are for the city.
Yep.
And so these guys are stepping up to the plate, and they're building some solar stuff within the city. And coincidentally, the guy that presented this to the church has built a new house in my neighborhood, and guess what's on his roof?
Solar panels.
Yeah, I've looked over that system a bunch.
Yep.
And it's very interesting. The only reason that I bring that up and say that it's important is that every one of us who owns a home can, if we want, explore that option.
Well, I'll tell you what, I'm exploring that option right now, Chad, because we have 2 flat roofs that face the south.
There you go.
And I can probably, I've already been in talks now, for all you anti-solar people, it's quite likely that we could accommodate all of our electricity needed day to day, minus during summertime when we want to keep ourselves cool.
Yeah.
And otherwise, now, and another thing, okay, homeless shelters, churches, government buildings, it should almost be a mandatory requirement, in my opinion, because, we live in have you seen the solar flares that are bombarding? We're sitting here, we deal with all these things in our technology. Who do people go to in time of need, right? Let's say something happens, not a doomsdayer here, but let's just say something happens and the electricity goes out. We are a society that is dependent upon electricity. And your church, I believe that's where you go, is that? Mm-hmm. Okay. Your church is a place that can be able to keep food cold. Keep a freezer.
I've memorized my door code. I'll just put it to you that way.
And I'm telling you, Chad, tell somebody there if it matters to them what I think, that I really think that is an awesome thing. And if something happens in the time of need, they're going to be able to do the things that need to be done to feed people, for people to be able to utilize that electricity if they need that electricity. And it might be down to, keeping food frozen for a longer period of time to feed more people, saving people from dying, from freezing to death. There's no way that somebody couldn't pick apart what I'm saying right now. But if you're listening and you're not jaded, you know the truth of what I'm saying.
Well, and I'll be straight. When I've looked at the possibility of doing it on my own house, that what I'm really concerned. I'm not super concerned about like trying to replace all of my electricity, but it's either that or some kind of an emergency generator, because what I need is something that will continue operating my sump pump.
Yep.
My furnace and my fridge.
Yep.
That's what I truly need.
You're correct.
And so, we're looking at that, but
awesome.
It is what it is.
Awesome.
So there was one other thing I wrote down on my sheet.
Okay. What do you got? I was going to ask.
Sand Creek Station.
Oh, yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So they're having a big week.
Yep.
So they got a new manager named this week, Dustin Hausch.
Very nice.
Tickle pink about this. This is, the great story behind Dustin. And also, they've opened up the website now for people to sign up to be volunteers for the U.S. Adaptive Open, and that's in January. That's in July. It's coming up quick, And so I hope people will jump on that train, because that is going to be a very special event.
Yeah, and we'll talk about that in the future, because I know that we're going to cover that a couple times on the program. I got that in my mind that we're just going to plug that and make sure that happens. I think the story behind the gentleman that you're talking about, you told me it in more detail. We're coming up to it in the program, so you can't cover it as much detail as I know you wanted to. But there's an amazing story, and
it's in today's Kansan.
Okay, so
and
get
I put
the
it
cans
on,
in.
I put it in the sports section.
Get the
of
cans in.
Kansas.
$5,
So,
$5, folks. And I also got something that you're going to see an ad coming out, because Harvey County Talk is going to pay for one individual, one listener who doesn't have the Kansan subscription for 1 year online. I'm gonna have a subscription that Harvey County Talk pays for. It's going to cost $5 a month for a year, and we're just leading by example, Chad. We're leading by example, and we want to reward people with the Kansan, because that is a reliable, credible news source in our community. We want to be able to reward the Kansan, so that way, you have just one more subscription. And if it's online, you get it for $5, and that's the way to go. Can I steal the final word this week, Chad?
Go right ahead.
Because we really are getting close. So if I say this fast, I apologize. On April 1st, there's going to be a chamber ribbon cutting ceremony to celebrate the opening of the Behavioral Urgent Care Center at Prairie View. Okay, I'm going to call it the BUC. I don't know if that's what they call it.
There's two ribbon cuttings that day, and that's one of the big ones.
Okay, it says the ribbon cutting will take place at 1 p.m. at 1901 East 1st Street in Newton. The event is open to the public and will be followed by an open house at 2:30 p.m. They hope to see you there. I just want to say this, okay? In a world in which we have so much stigma surrounding mental health, we need to stop, folks. We need to stop. All right? I am a firm believer, and I will stand on this. 9 times out of 10, it doesn't matter what crime takes place in our community, whether it a person crime, non-person crime, whether it be this, that, or the other, whether it be a sexual crime. 9 times out of 10, it comes back to either 1, an adequate mental health, or 2, an addiction. And those run hand in hand in so many cases. Okay? So look, let's be a society that turns the corner on this. Let's be a community that turns the corner on this. Let's stop with the stigma surrounding mental health. If you are somebody that you know needs help, or you think you might need help, they have provided a way for you to walk in the door and get the help you need. They will help you. It's never too late. Just ask for help. That's all you have to do. That's all you have to do. And let's stop with this stuff. Let's stop with this idea that a person can't go see a counselor because of A, B, or C, because it's that's left unchecked, and the shame and the stigma surrounding it, why we are seeing a growing problem with mental health, which equals addiction, or one into the same together, parallel, and then we see our communities fall apart. We see children without mothers, without fathers. We see victims of crime that then become people that commit crime and create more victims. We've got to do something about this. And you in the community, what you can do is you can show up on this ribbon cutting, and you can see what they're doing, and you can hear what they're doing, and you can know what it is that you can do to be able to help.
I said I was going to give you the last word, but there's another ribbon cutting on that day as well.
Okay.
Newton Public Library, 10 a.m.
Oh, man. How did I forget the Newton Public Library? Okay.
But there you go. So
all right.
April 1st is not going to be an April Fool's Day this year. No. It's going to be an April Fun Day.
Absolutely. Try to hit both of them up. Have a good week, everybody.